King Ferdinand I and Queen Isabella.
It says
They gave the okay for him to make this conquest.
they were Edomites also.
All devils, all Edomites, crackers, man. Go ahead.
It says on behalf of the Catholic monarchs of Spain, he claimed the land and the people for Spain, conveniently ignoring native government and native ownership of the land. The population of the Americas in 1492 is estimated to be 100 million as compared with 70 million in Europe. Europeans were not known for their religious tolerance, right? Because he was ruling through the Bible with the sword, talking about the Pope Alexander VI.
Yeah.
It says,
and this book does not belong to them. They took our book, all right, and the fact that the Lord actually brought them back in power, which is prophecy and Revelation, or that basically the beast was gonna be loosened it was gonna be loosened, or from the pit, and it was gonna go out and deceive the world. Well, it started during this period, the Renaissance era, or the rebirth of the Roman Empire, the last leg of the Roman Empire, man. Okay, and they came and deceived the world through their Christianity, man. Okay, and they thought that this book, them being in power, and they held this book. They believed that this book gave them power to go and commit all type of genocide and murder and robbery, man, and rape.
tied into the book of Eli. That's why I forgot the character's name, but it was played by. That's why he wanted the book, because he who had the control of this book would control the people.
Yep.
You know? Just tied into the book of Eli. Anyway, it says, right here, it says, Europeans were not known for their religious tolerance. The day before Columbus left Spain, all of the Jews in Spain were required to leave. During the time that Columbus was preparing for his voyage, an estimated 30,000 Spanish Jews were burned at the stake for their failure to convert to Catholicism.
Yeah.
Which Jews were that?
Right.
We were over there ruling for the Dark Ages already anyway.
Yeah.
It says, the Taíno were the first Native Americans to encounter the Spanish. Columbus recorded in his diary that the natives would easily be made Christians because it seemed to me that they had no religion.
Yeah, meaning they don't have the same customs or ideas that we have.
Yep, that's all religion.
They're totally different, you know. You know, so you had guys that were, you know, heathenistic, where they was over here worshiping the sun, the moon, the stars. They even worship rain. They was worshiping buffalo and stuff like that.
I always got to bring a movie up that ties, gives you a visual, because I know our people are visual, is Apocalypto.
Yeah.
That's why the whole thing, there were all Israelites over there doing that to each other, acting one way, enslaving one another, fighting one another. And then at the end of the movie, what happened? He's running for his life, ran to the edge of the ocean, and what happened? Here they come, those Spanish, Cristobal Colon and all of them, came over here. Cristobal Colon came over, and there they go, coming over with the big ships and Christianity. That was portrayed in that movie. Anyway, it says, after Columbus had returned to Europe, and word of his discoveries reached the royal courts of Portugal and Spain, they were heated debates over the ownership of the new land. But Pope Alexander VI stepped in to solve the dilemma. Papal bulls by Pope Alexander VI.
And a papal bull is basically a letter.
Yep.
Okay, basically like a bill. And they sent that out because they had the Borgias, they had power, man. That was the first crime family. They had the power to send out letters and decrees, all right, for basically the whole entire Spanish public to follow.
I believe papal bull is like powerful paper.
Yeah.
You know? Yep.
Yeah.
It says, papal bulls by Pope Alexander VI granted Spain and Portugal all of the lands in the Americas which were not under Christian rule.
Yep.
This began the European assumption that the native people of the area did not really own the land because they were not Christian.
You see that? So because these people are not Christian, well, I guess that gives us license to go over there and colonize it.
Yep.
Basically, you have to be the type of Christian that they were. You had to be that in order to have power and have the ability to siege anything that you wanted. They did everything in the name of Christianity.
Which was another excuse, like it was just another excuse for them to take over and control the situation. No different than they're trying to do with these gun laws. They're just looking for an excuse to take over and conquer and control.
Every day, it's like they passing some kind of executive order, some kind of laws. I'm pretty sure after that shooting, the next day they pass probably 10 to 15 executive orders.
Yep, for more control for them. Less for you American people. Less democracy for you people, so you can understand it. Right? It says the Pope decreed that barbarous nations be overthrown and brought to the faith itself. They use faith as them coming through and killing people. It says the Inter papal bull by Pope Alexander VI stated, "We trust in Him whom empires and governments and all good things proceed." And they still saying that because they had the power. The rebirth of the Roman Empire was coming back in, which really means the rebirth of the power structure of your Edomites. You were coming back into power, so you felt like that gave you license to decree a decree from the Most High that you can do whatever the hell you wanted.
Yeah, somebody get not Isaiah 10. Damn, it just slipped my mind.
I'll let me read that again.
Yeah, read it again.
Okay, the Inter papal bull by Pope
Daniel 4 and 17. Because basically, even though this gave him that prideful mind that he had the entitlement to conquer anything in his path, anything that did not have the Christian belief, he could conquer it. Yeah, get that.
Because they're opposed to the Most High.
Right. But actually, to be technical, the Lord was with them.
Yep.
4 and 17.
Daniel 4:17. This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and give it to whomsoever he will.
And at that time, he gave it over to the Edomites. He gave it back to them. They once were ruling under the Greeks and the Romans, and then they fell, and then Jake started to rule for a period of 1,000 years, which you know as the Dark Ages, or the Byzantine Empire. All right, that was when the Moors were ruling Europe. All right, they were ruling Germany, Russia, Africa. All right, but then prophecy had to be fulfilled. It wasn't meant for Jake to continue to rule. He wasn't in the kingdom. All right, eventually the beast had to be loosed from his prison. And he had to go out and deceive the people and seize power on the planet Earth. And that's being fulfilled. That's what happened when this council happened. All right? Go ahead, bro.
And set it up over it the basis of men.
And these were devils that just came out of the caves. And all of a sudden they took seizure of the entire known world, man. All right? They became a superpower. And they took over the Catholic religion, because the original progenitors of the Catholic Church was really the Jakes during the Byzantine Empire, Constantine and them. They started Christianity, man. And then when Jake fell, Esau took over that seat. He started becoming the popes. Yeah.
Didn't they run them into the Caucasus Mountains of Georgia, Russia anyway?
Yeah,
after the Romans.
Yeah,
They let them in there.
They ran into those mountains,
They
man.
came back down into power from the pneumonic plagues, weakening the Moors, so to speak, in those days. And then they came to the Lord, because the Lord was shifting power back. Because even though those Moors were ruling and they started Christianity, they wasn't really ruling according to the way that they were supposed to be ruling. The prophecy wasn't fulfilled in that time.
Yeah, I got something to Revelation 20 and 2. It says, and he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. And that's what we're talking about, the time of the Byzantine Empire. All right? You had Jake ruling, all right, during the Holy Roman Empire, which led into the Byzantine Empire. And then after the fall of the Moors, then that's when you had Esau rise back up. Okay, roughly around the 1300s, that's when this devil started to reign back on the earth. All right, and Jake started dying off. Okay, but you still had Jakes that was still among them. All right, you still had even kings that was sitting on thrones that was of Jake. That's why you had King James, who was a so-called black man that was ruling and sitting on the throne of England, Scotland, France, Ireland. All right, it says, and cast him into the bottomless pit and shut him up.
The bottomless pit is Europe, right?
Yep. And set a seal upon him that he should deceive the nations no more till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. After that, he must be loosed a little season.
Yep. We're in that little season.
And then when you jump down, because when you read these prophecies, it always jump in time spans. Yep. All right, this book has different timelines, and you got to understand when it's talking about a specific time frame. Yep. It basically jumps from Jake ruling to the Renaissance, and then it talks about Yahushua coming back and reigning on his throne for 1,000 years. That's talking about later in the future.
Yep.
Okay, you can't, basically this chapter, you can't just read straight down.
And then link to the time period of that same 1,000.
It's not all within the same time period, man.
Right.
All right? So when you jump down to verse 7, it says, and when 1,000 years are expired, meaning after the Byzantine Empire, okay, after the Dark Ages, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. Okay? And that's when he went out and deceived the very world, man.
That's when he went
with his Christianity, his democracy. All right, basically he started to make everybody worship the beast and take on his wine, his philosophy, starting with his Roman Catholicism. And that's what he did when he came over here and he took over the so-called Latinos, okay? The Native Americans, the so-called Puerto Ricans, the so-called Mexicans, all you Spanish-speaking tribes. This is what he did to you, man. Satan came down after being bound in that prison for so long, and he came down with wrath, man. Because Esau was serving us during the Dark Ages, man. He was our slave. We civilized him. When he came out of the clay, we cleaned him up. Okay? And when he came his ass over here to the Americas, there was no such thing as a common cold. Okay? They taught this man how to heal himself with the herbs of the earth. You know? I mean, you northern tribes, you taught this devil all the things that he know to survive, and what did he do in return? He slaughtered you.
How did he repay you?
How did he repay you with slaughter, man? All right, so that's the history that we're reading about these devils. So you can't feel bad when we don't have any sympathy for you devils when the Lord brings judgment upon you. Go ahead, Al.
Yep, it says, I'm going to start back up. It says, the Inter-Caetera papal bull by Pope Alexander VI stating, we trust in him from whose empires and governments and all good things proceed. That was talking about Daniel, right? It says, this laid the legal foundation for assuming that government comes only from the Christian God, and therefore Christian nations have a legal right to rule over non-Christian nations.
Hey, these were the original extremists.
Yep.
Okay? These are your extremists right here.
Okay.
Yep. They're still
Those Spaniards, those conquistadors that came in the name of Christianity, those were your extremists. Why aren't y'all condemning Christopher Columbus?
Yep.
And the Spanish Inquisition? Why aren't y'all outlawing them? Why aren't y'all speaking bad about that history? Okay? They brought terror in the name of religion. But here it is, you about to honor a man who fall under this category.
Okay.
Showing you the hypocrisy of this damn devil, man. All right, go ahead, bro.
It says, the late Vine Deloria, in his afterword for America in 1492, The World of Indian Peoples Before the Arrival of Columbus, wrote, thus armed, that's a book that they're referring to, by Vine Deloria, in the afterword about this situation. The book is called,
Go ahead.
The World of Indian Peoples Before the Arrival of Columbus. In that he wrote, thus armed with a total bogus title issued by God's representative on earth, the Spaniards then began a brutal...
So they were acting as the Most High's representative.
Yep.
As if they're basically executing the judgment of the
Okay.
Lord for themselves.
That's why they call it Pope Father.
Yeah. They do it to this very day, man. Yeah. Have you ever seen that movie called Frailty?
Yeah.
And basically this man, he pretty much acted as if he was like an angel of the Lord, and any person that was considered a sinner or a wicked or evildoer that was coming against his beliefs, he believed that the Spirit of the Lord was on him to go out and just kill anybody that was doing sin.
All right.
You know? And he was going and he was killing people with axes and stuff like that, man. Watch that movie Frailty. Well, what he was doing was no different than what the Spanish were doing when they came over here to the Americas, man.
Right.
In the 1400s. Go ahead, bro.
Wait, what are you
Go
guys
ahead.
saying?
Go ahead, Doc.
It says, the Spaniards then began a brutal conquest in the Americas,
he
which
loves you,
virtually obliterated the
loves
native
you very much.
populations in the Caribbean within a generation.
Mass genocide.
Yep.
Soon as when that devil, Cristobal Colon, that kite, all right, I'm gonna call him that. He landed over there into the Bahama Island. All right, basically in the Caribbean islands. That's where he landed. And when he went over there, what was really on his mind was not only was there people over there that's not serving Christianity, but also this land got so many natural resources. This land got riches.
Yep.
Hey, we're Christians, and one of the doctrines of Christianity is prosperity.
Yep.
So they believe that all the earthly riches, everything on the planet Earth, as long as you believe Him, it belongs to you. All right, so you could feel entitled to go and snatch it by any means. You can go and rape, rob, murder, pillage. You know, you can go and steal it. You can go and do what you want. Commit mass genocide to basically accumulate it into your hands. And that's what this devil did. Okay? All he saw was riches.
Yeah.
All right? And he brought his goons with him so he could try to dethrone them and basically kill them off so he could take over, just like what he's doing now.
Yep.
The exact same thing
That's
this
why I
devil's
brought
doing
it
right
up.
now, man.
Exactly why I brought
That's
it
why
up.
he's over there messing with those people in Syria.
Go.
Okay? That's why he's in all those lands trying to destabilize their governments or their regimes.
Like I said,
Because he sees what he wants over there. Christopher Columbus is no different, man.
Yep. This is their MO. We've seen it before.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You know? Go ahead, Doc.
It says the discovery of Indians presented some problems for Europeans since they were not mentioned in the Christian Bible.
Which they had no understanding of the scriptures. Because those people are in the Bible. They're known as the tribe of Gad. Okay? And they fell under that curse. Okay, if you're in the because there's so much you could go into with it, but that's the fact that they're identifying as these people are not spoken of in the Bible, but yet Christopher Columbus identified them through the Bible. You had to have known that these were the 10 tribes that were brought over to the Americas, man. Yeah, you can get
In
it.
2nd Ezra chapter 13, verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes. which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king.
Yeah, this is around the 8th century BC. This was during the time of the Assyrian captivity of the northern kingdom. They were snatched out of Samaria, and out of their lands, and they were brought over into the land of Assyria. Okay, and after a while, after serving slavery, there was other kingdoms that were rivaling the Babylonian Assyrian empire. That was during the time when you had the Persians and the Medes that were neighboring empires that were on the rise. So in the midst of that, the northern kingdom, they took a council among themselves. They took the opportunity to be like, well, this is the perfect time for us to actually get the hell up out of here. You know?
Stick around, it's gonna be bad.
Yeah. And they had to, and this council was based off of not only escaping their captivity, but they also had to find some land where there was no particular nation of people claiming sovereignty. All right? Because if you go somewhere where there's other men that claim sovereignty to this particular land, you're gonna go right into you're gonna run right into slavery.
And knew about it because King David went all over the land.
Yeah. You know? So they had to have that council of identifying and going to a specific land where no people actually dwelt, where people were not ruling on thrones and claiming a jurisdiction to. The Americas wasn't under the jurisdiction of empires. All right? All right? And really, if go into the history, go on Google and show me a history on a people that were ruling, okay, that was claiming an empire over here in the Americas prior to the 8th century BC. I want you to find that information for me, man. All right? You're not going to really find that. Now, was there people that actually came over here prior to that? Of course. This land was a part of the entire landmass of Pangaea at one time. So of course there were people that have been on the soil before.
King David and King Solomon sent fleet of ships over here to bring back exotic birds, different
spices.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, man. Yeah, go ahead, bro.
I'll start from the top again. These are the 10 tribes which are carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanassar, the king of Assyria, led away captive. He carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt.
If I may say, when you look at the landmass of Israel, where it was at, it was in northern Israel, and they were surrounded by Syria and different other landmasses, Georgia, Asia Minor, and all of those, Greece, all of those different other landmasses, where they could come in and get them. And some of the 10 tribes were even across the Jordan River, where they didn't have that protection. So they were like, man, we just sitting ducks out here and we watching the power of these other nations rise. So we just went into captivity, we can't keep the laws like we should. We might as well bounce, but we don't have the influence of these other nations.
Exactly.
That was the reason why they left, coming out of Assyria, because they went to Assyria first to get, because of the idolatry that they were committing against the Most High God. And then the southern kingdom went because into Babylon captivity. So when they came out, they went over to the Americas. That's what this is talking about.
That they might keep, verse 42, that they might keep their statues which they never kept in their own land.
Because if you're under a particular empire, you got to keep the ordinances of that particular empire. Perfect example. The Greeks, our people had to become Hellenized or they would be killed. Okay. Here in America, we got to keep, we got to go under the laws of this damn devil while trying to keep our own laws, but we can't even keep all the laws that we want to keep in the society, man. Or will be killed or persecuted, man. You know? So they went to go to a land where there was nobody, where they could freely keep the laws, statutes, commandments. But over a course of time, they start to fall away from it. Because Ephraim is joined unto idols.
And they remember those traditional traditions that they picked up from those heathen, more than just all the pure statutes, laws, and commandments of the Most High God.
Yeah.
Verse 43, and they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over.
Yeah, meaning he calmed the waters so they have a smooth transition on their journey from that side of the world over to the new world.
Which was giving us, the Northern Kingdom, a chance to do the right thing. So he had committed that and allowed us to go peacefully over here.
For through that country there was a great way to go, namely, of a year and a half, the same region called Arsirith. Then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come.
We looked at latter time. The latter time is all the way up until now. We're still over here. And now the southern kingdom's over here too. It took a year and a half to go from through the Euphrates all around to the southern horn of Africa, all the way up to the Americas.
Yeah, and it didn't literally take them a year and a half just to make that actual route. They had to have, there's a reason why they had to travel around Africa. It's because they had to make stops, of course, and make sure they gather up, certain resources on the land.
We can't hold a year and a half worth of.
Yeah, they had to keep making stops, man. And then they eventually prepared to go for that long journey across the ocean.
Once they got to that closest point, which is the same route that the southern kingdom took from the west coast of Africa.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So that's why it took an hour and it's like a
year and a half.
A year and a half. Okay. And when you look at going back to King Solomon when he had his navy and he would send those Hamites on those ships, and he would send them basically to receive those riches, to go get the gold and the precious jewels and the the peacocks and the ivory and all that. He said he would send them every 3 years.
Yeah, round trip was 3 years.
Round trip was every 3 years. So that makes sense that they took that same route, the Northern Kingdom, and they knew of that, man.
Made the same stops.
Yeah, our people knew geography, man. And they knew that the earth was round and not flat.
And they knew the stars which would guide them to astronomy.
Yeah.
So they were like, our people are still great navigators.
Yeah, Issachar, was that Chronicles, the 12th chapter, how he has the understanding of the times and the constellations of the heavens, man. Hey, that was it, man. And the Lord probably was directing their paths. He probably sent chariots in the sky, man, when it got dark. To make sure that they got over here. Prophecy had to be fulfilled, man. All the tribes were going to be brought over here to Babylon the Great. Now we both were going to be oppressed together in this Babylon.
That's right.
Uttermost parts of the earth.
Yeah. Because that was what the curse, right? The Lord was going to send us from one end of the earth even to the other, and we're going to serve strange gods. Hey, Gad and the other tribes that was already over here, they already started following after strange gods, man. That's why the Lord had Esau come over there and jack their ass up. That's why they lost their heritage. That's why they served slavery. That's why they worship Christianity. They worship the so-called white image of Cesare Borgia, thinking that that's their Lord and Savior.
No pictures.
No pictures. You can take pictures of the signs, but not us. So go ahead, I'll read it again.
Then, verse 46, then dwelt they there until the latter time, and now when they shall begin to come, the highest shall stay in the springs of the stream again, that they may go through. Therefore sowest thou in the multitude with peace.
Yeah, so you had fleets of the northern kingdom that was leaving, and then you had some that stayed behind, and then some left and took the same journey. They had to go through the same thing, and then you also had a multitude of them that actually stayed back and stayed within the Eastern world, the old world. That's why when you read in the New Testament, you have traces of Israelites of the northern kingdom that was still in the midst.
Yep.
That's why you had the prophetess Anna.
Yep.
She was of the tribe of Asher.
Yep.
Okay, you actually had tribes of the northern kingdom that was still over there, but it was predominantly the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. But the majority of the northern kingdom, they all came over here to the Americas, man. All right, that was it. That's it.
So now I'm gonna go up to.
As a matter of fact, Deuteronomy, real quick. Deuteronomy 29. Deuteronomy 29, and start at 26. And this is basically what happened to the northern kingdom.
Deuteronomy 29:26. For they went and observed other gods and worshipped them.
Yep. And that's what our people are constantly doing, committing idolatry, which is the reason why the Heavenly Father got so angry with Jacob and put them through countless captivities. And then ultimately to this final captivity, which happened to be the worst captivity. All right, what our people experienced in this captivity was worse than any other atrocity that was done to us in any other captivities we went through.
And of any other
know?
nation.
That's why it's our
So
last
far.
captivity.
And that's why this is our
This here, that's a putrefied sore right there on his back.
And like we said earlier, that's healed. That's not fresh with blood and all that and so that's after it healed. He was supposed to take that. He wasn't in the same pain as when it happened. We took that
and not just with Judah, but the things that they was telling you about Ephraim, all right, and Gad, how they used to hang the pregnant woman, mother up, you know what I'm saying, and cut her belly out, and the baby will fall out of her stomach in the umbilical cord, and they would stomp on the baby, you know what I'm saying, and stuff the baby back into her stomach. That's where you get stuffing from on the so-called Thanksgiving. You know?
The other one is chopping up the heads, kicking their head around, and create a game of football or soccer. That you Hispanics worship and love so dearly now.
Sell out stadiums for us.
You get to take the chip to get into that team.
Yeah. Or you used to send dogs upon the Tainos. And you would have them basically get mauled to death, get shriveled up by dogs, man. You know. And that's actually recorded in the scriptures too. That was going to be happening to Ephraim, man. Yeah, we finished that.
Gods whom they knew not, and whom they had not given unto them. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against the land to bring upon it all the curses that are written in this book.
Read louder, bro. Read a little louder.
And the Lord rooted them out of their land in anger.
He rooted them out of their land in anger. That's what he did during the Assyrian Empire. He rooted them up out of there and had them enslaved under the Assyrians. But then when they left, they thought they was gonna get away from the curse. They came over here and they was parlaying and chilling, and they thought they was gonna be able to keep the law, statutes, commandments over here by themselves. But then they start falling into idolatry, start worshiping nature and shit. And that angered the Lord, because the Lord said he's a jealous God, a jealous power. There shall have no other God before me. You know? And every time you went off and you broke the covenant of the Lord, the curses came upon you. So eventually, they ended up coming upon the northern kingdom. Okay?
Worshiping the creation not the creator.
and not the creator, exactly.
Because this was a beautiful place over here when they got over here.
Yeah.
It was literally paradise when they got over here. So they were beholden in all that beauty to the point that they began to worship.
Yeah. That's right, man. But you still have some of our people that was over here. Not all of them was in the idolatry. You still have some of them that was actually keeping the customs. That's why you read, through those books written by those historians, they still are. They were still able to identify certain customs that Gad and Reuben were keeping that goes back to the customs of the Israelites.
Right.
Or they were still keeping certain feasts that's in the scriptures. They were still rocking fringes on their ponchos and stuff like that. They were still speaking broken dialects in Hebrew. They were calling upon the names of the Father and the Son in their broken dialect.
They got the poncho from the garments that we're wearing right now. The idea of it.
Yeah, man. All right.
And in wrath and in the great indignation, and cast them into another land as it is this day.
As it is this day. So you're in another land right now, as it is this day. You're not in your own holy land. Okay? You're not in your own homeland. And that's the problem with Gad, because Gad got this land first. They think that they was always here. They thought that, because a lot of their forefathers taught them that their ancestors was here for hundreds of thousands of years, and that's not true, or millions of years. That's not true, man. No, you came over here from the Middle East. That's the reason why we have artifacts that was found in this land that prove that you came from the other side of the world.
Those lunar stones.
Yeah, that's just one artifact.
So before the Europeans,
Yeah.
so-called.
You had the Chief Joseph tablet. All right. You had many other findings of